everybody. Welcome to the channel's Campfire Stories. But first of all, I want to let you know that be looking for us. We're all three coming tomorrow. We'll bring you one more little tree. And also Sunday at 4 o'clock, we're going to try to have a Zoom conference with all of everybody who wants to log on. So we'll see you. And so Brother Ray's going to read us a story called the three trees. The tale of the three trees. So we'll turn it over to him.
I hope everyone's been doing their homework this week, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll be a part of some of the day, not all the day, but Catherine and Ben will. Now, this story, and you may have heard it before, or maybe your Sunday school teacher has read it to you, but this is called The Tale of the Three Trees, and it was retold by Angela Elwell Hunt, and illustrations are by Tim Young. But it is a very traditional folklore tale that has been around for a very, very long time. And I will show the pictures. Once upon a mountaintop, three little trees stood and dreamed of what they wanted to become when they grow up. Pretty little trees. The first little tree looked up at the stars, twinkling like diamonds above him. I want to hold treasure, he said. I want to be covered with gold and filled with precious stones. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in all the world. The second little tree looked out at the small stream trickling by on its way to the ocean. I want to be a strong sailing ship, she said. I want to travel mighty waters and carry powerful kings. I will be the strongest ship in the world. The third little tree looked down into the valley below, where busy men and busy women worked in the busy town. I don't want to leave this mountaintop at all, he said. I want to grow so tall that when people stop to look at me, they will raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I want to be the tallest tree in the world. Years passed, the rains came, the sun shone, and the little trees grew tall. One day, three woodcutters climbed the mountain. The first woodcutter looked at the first tree and said, "This tree is beautiful. It's perfect for me." With the swoop of his shining axe, the first tree fell. Now I shall be made into a beautiful chest, thought the first tree. I shall hold wonderful treasure. The second woodcutter looked at the second tree and said, "This tree is strong. It is perfect for me." With a swoop of his shining axe, the second tree fell. Now I shall sail mighty waters, thought the second tree. I shall be a strong ship fit for kings. The third tree felt his heart sink when the last woodcutter looked his way. He stood straight and tall and pointed bravely to heaven. But the woodcutter never even looked up. "Any kind of tree will do for me," he muttered. With the swoop of his shining axe, the third tree fell. The first tree rejoiced when the woodcutter brought him into the carpenter's shop. But the busy carpenter was not thinking about treasure chests. Instead, his work-worn hands fashioned the tree into a feed box for animals. The once beautiful tree was not covered with gold or filled with treasure. He was coated with sawdust and filled with hay for the hungry farm animals. The second tree smiled when the woodcutter took her to a shipyard. But no mighty sailing ships were being made that day. Instead, the one strong tree was hammered and sawed into just a simple fishing boat. Too small and too weak to sail an ocean or even a river. She was taken to a little lake. Every day, she brought in loads of dead, smelly fish. The third tree was confused when the woodcutter cut him into strong beams and left him in the lumber yard. What happened? The once tall tree wondered. All I ever wanted to do was stay on the mountaintop and point to God. Many, many days and nights passed. The three trees nearly forgot their dreams. But one night, golden starlight poured over the first tree as a young woman placed her newborn baby in the feed box. I wish I could make a cradle for him, her husband whispered. The mother squeezed his hand and smiled as the starlight shone on the smooth and sturdy wood. This manger is beautiful, she said. And suddenly, the first tree knew he was holding the greatest treasure in all of the world. One evening, a tired traveler and his friends crowded into the old fishing boat. The traveler fell asleep as the second tree quietly sailed out into the lake. Soon a thundering and thrashing storm arose. The little tree shuddered. She knew she did not have the strength to carry so many passengers safely through all of this wind and rain. The tired man awakened. He stood up, stretched out his hand, and said, "Peace." And then the storm stopped as quickly as it began. And suddenly the second tree knew she was carrying the King of Kings, the King of heaven and earth. On Friday morning, the third tree was startled when his beams were yanked from the forgotten woodpile. He flinched as he was carried through an angry, shouting crowd. He shuddered when soldiers nailed a man's hands to him. He felt ugly and harsh and cruel. But on Sunday morning, when the sun rose and the earth trembled with joy beneath him, the third tree knew that God's love had changed everything. It made the first tree beautiful. It made the second tree strong. And every time people thought of the third tree, they would know they think of God. You see, the first tree became the manger for baby Jesus. The second tree became the boat, the fishing boat in which Jesus taught his disciples to have faith. And of course, the third tree became the cross. On Friday, Good Friday, that cross carried and held Jesus. But on Easter Sunday, Jesus rose, and the cross was no longer carried. So each tree became something very, very special. And the third tree thought that that was better than being the tallest tree in the world. Well, I hope you have a good evening, boys and girls. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. I want to give a big shout out for our camera person, Ben Chandler, behind the scenes here. And we'll see you tomorrow.